The day after Election Day, we will take a look at the surprises and all the interesting developments from an action-packed night in our area. Then our panel of attorneys, they will discuss the latest developments from inside the courthouse at the Shelley Silver corruption trial, which is underway. Also, the highest court in the land, Supreme Court, taking on a case about a possible discrimination when it comes to jury selection. When prosecutors intentionally exclude black people, is that in fact against the law? Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to have our legal panel come out in just a moment, but we begin tonight with politics. Yesterday, it was Election Day, and even though most people focusing on 2016, there were a handful of races worth revisiting when it was all said and done after the polls closed last night. And for that, I'm going to turn to our senior political correspondent and the host of Newsbreakers, Andrew Whitman, who had a long night last night. Where do you want to start?
I want to start on Staten Island in an interesting race. The short-lived congressman in Staten Island, Mike McMahon, won election as district attorney. He, of course, replacing Donovan, who was the district attorney in the Eric Garner case, who got himself elected to Congress. And yeah, you've got a Democrat winning in Staten Island. Look, you've got an off-year election. And you've always got low turnout. We turn out low across the region, including in Staten Island. That was the high-level case or race in all of New York City yesterday. But still, you hit it right on the head. A Democrat winning in Staten Island and winning a borough-wide election. That's pretty interesting. The question that I think that's going to lead to is how much of this is hangover from the Garner case, and how much of this is just name recognition for McMahon. If there's a sense that there seemed like there was a lot of support in Staten Island for what Donovan did in deciding not to prosecute the officer in the Garner case. I wonder if some of this is reaction to that, if maybe they're thinking perhaps we would get a little better prosecution, or whether the officer, Pantaleo, should have been prosecuted. So interesting outcome there. I think we read a lot into this at our danger.
Yep.
But
and it turned out, as you said, very low.
Yeah, and then I want to go to a race in Connecticut that was your favorite of the night.
Oh, my God.
Joe Ganim, who is the former mayor of Bridgeport, reelected last night, and by a wide margin. But that's not really the story. The story is that he was mayor from 91 to 2003, was convicted in a racketeering conspiracy that got him $500 grand in kickbacks and bribes, spent 7 years in prison, was released in 2010, defeated the incumbent mayor in a Democratic primary in September, and then won going away in a three-person race. Democrats were trying to unite behind Mary Jane Foster. As you can see, not so much. And Ganim reelected. Here's the irony of this. I'm not sure Ganim could have voted for himself in this race.
But you know what? You think of Marion Barry. You think of Buddy Cianci up in Providence.
Who tried but didn't get back into office.
He won once. He tried to be governor, and then he lost. He went away, came back, became mayor again, tried to become governor of Rhode Island, lost there. I mean, people love their rogues, but my God, this was like racketeering, scamming the city, $500 grand put in your pockets. You come out after doing 7 years and they elect you going away?
Now, the sense that I'm getting is that the period that he was mayor, the 91 to 2003 period, was a pretty good era in Bridgeport. And so there might have been some sense of like returning to this peak time. And that also gives you a pretty good idea that voters in Bridgeport not terribly happy with the state of their city right now.
They're not, but my gosh, still, I mean, the idea we've debated whether or not people should be able to collect their pensions, let alone hold office again. This guy's the mayor of the same city. He hustled out of a $500,000.
But having said that, it's not like he was hiding his conviction from the public.
What choice did he have?
Every voter knew. I mean,
they did.
It's not like the pension thing, which is sort of automatic. And so you're trying to decide whether to change the rules or change the law in that case.
We're going to talk about it later on in the show. We're going to be talking about Albany, obviously on trial in many ways with Shelley Silver. But maybe it's a sense of, hey, he may be a rogue, but he's our rogue. I don't know. I was still stunned.
I wonder if there's a little anti-establishment in there, too. I mean,
I don't know. I think, as you say, it's dangerous to read too much into these things.
Speaking of dangerous to read too much into it, the battle for the power or control of the New Jersey State Assembly. Here's the bottom line. Democrats increased their majority in the State Assembly. They currently have 48 Democrats there. They now have at least 51. There's one race that's still too close to call. In New Jersey, Assembly members are elected in pairs. They're elected separately, but there are 2 per district who are elected. So I think the odds are that it's going to wind up 52 to 28.
How much of a referendum you think this is on Christie?
You know, I think it's easy to say that it is, and that certainly might have, you know, changed the overall tide in terms of voters' opinions of the two parties. But assembly races, as you well know, are usually local issue races, local, you know, problems or issues with one of the candidate or another one of the candidates. So it's not always a statewide feel. Look, 2 of the seats the Democrats won are in the 1st district, which is as far south as you can go in New Jersey without being in Delaware. And that is, you know, usually dead area for Democrats. Democrats do not particularly do well in South Jersey, and yet they won those seats. I think Democrats are going to use this and try to attack Governor Christie with it. I'm not sure if it's necessarily called for in this case, but
you know also there's a vacancy in terms of party leadership for Republicans in New Jersey now, for everybody. Even when Christie was popular, he never put any political equity behind building up the party behind him. It was all about the man in the mirror for him. And I think some of that's coming home to roost right now. And you've talked to them too. When you talk to Jersey Republicans right now, well, they couldn't do enough waving the pom-poms for Christie even as recently as a year and a half ago. Since Bridgegate, since been a really rough rollout to his presidential campaign, they're looking, and some of them are openly grumbling about the governor.
They feel like they helped him and that he hasn't helped them in return, and has never really had much of an interest in helping down-ticket Republicans going forward. The other impact of that is, where's the Republican bench in New Jersey? After Governor Christie, maybe Tom Kean Jr., who's well known for name
with Christie,
right?
And also, you know, some of the other people who've run for statewide, Christie's gone against him. How about on the island?
This is an interesting race, and I know you're going to get into this with the legal panel. This was a battle of qualifications in the district attorney race in Nassau County. Madeline Singas, who has been a career prosecutor and has been the acting DA since Kathleen Rice was elected to Congress last year, up against Kate Murray, who hasn't practiced law in 17 years, but has experience as the supervisor in Hempstead. Different kinds of experience. Voters rejecting Kate Murray, going with Madeline Singas. This is interesting because Nassau Republicans do pretty well. Kate Murray had the deep name recognition, and voters saying not so much in this case. And I know you're going to talk to the legal panel about what this means, or what this kind of decision means in terms of prosecutions and how a district attorney's office works as well. 2 other quick races I wanted to get into. The first one is up in Putnam County, where Robert Tendy, the Republican, knocked out Adam Levy, who was an independent on this screen, but he was an incumbent Republican. Tendy beat Levy during the primary and then beat him again in the general election. This gets interesting for a couple of reasons. One, Levy is the son of Judge Judy from TV's Judge Judy fame. Wound up spending $500,000 of his own money in this race. The other thing is that there was a bit of a scandal last year. Levy's live-in personal trainer, who's Romanian, was on trial last year accused of child rape. He was acquitted, but Levy never left, you know, supported him the whole way. Not sure how much that factored into the whole thing. I think a little bit. I get the sense that voters just wanted to turn the page, as the case may be. And finally, in Westchester County, the balance of power in the Westchester County. Oh, the Newburgh mayor's race. I forgot about that. This was the big surprise for me last night. Judy Kennedy, the Democrat, lost the primary to Jonathan Jacobson, and then beats Jacobson and the Republican John Giudice in the general election. And I don't know how that happens. I don't know how you lose a primary and then beat the same guy in the general election.
And I can tell you, not a lot happened in Newburgh between the primary and the general. So I'm with you. And whoever wins that, they've got a lot on their hands in Newburgh. But in Westchester, a couple interesting things, right?
Well, there were, but I want to focus on the race for Westchester County Legislature. And this is, the balance of power is a little misleading here, because right now it's 10-7 Democrats, but 2 Democrats have formed a coalition with Republicans. Democrats lost 1 seat, Republicans gained 1. But so that coalition from everybody that I'm hearing tonight is still alive, because Republicans need those 2 votes to get the majority and continue the current power sharing agreement. The indication is that's going to happen. I've tentatively booked an interview with Mike Kaplowitz, who is the chairman of the board and is one of those Democrats who is working with the Republicans for next week for Newsbreakers. We're going to see what's happening with that relationship. But the upshot of that is good news for Robert Astorino in Westchester County. He's going to have a friendly board with him for a while longer.
Which is interesting in and of itself. A long night last night.
Let's not do this again for another year.
No, and we will next year. And trust me, I think more folks will be voting next year, and I think more folks will be watching a lot more races next year. But still, maybe a couple canaries in the coal mine, as they say, from what came out on Tuesday night. Andrew, thank you very much. Sure. Now, we mentioned Shelley Silver. Day 3 of the corruption trial of the former Assembly Speaker. We're going to tell you what happened in the courtroom and also what each side's strategy is. That straight ahead.